Hi guys, it's Chris from Novation. I'm here at the fantastic Loops and Bits store here in Zurich with the wonderful Eddie, and I've got a few bits of pieces here with me. Today I'm in Zurich, tomorrow is Antwerp for the Battle of the Circuits, which is the first kind of all-circuit show, and basically I wanted to just talk a little bit about the setup that I've got here, because it's quite an interesting little setup that we've got. So the main part of the whole setup is the circuit. Of course, this is the wonderful sequencer, two Novation synths, drum sequencer and programmer, and now with sample upload as well, of course, thanks to the circuit components that we've produced. But I thought it'd be interesting just to quickly go through some of the things that I've got additional to that as well. So circuit is the brain, this is the main thing that's going to be sequencing, but I've also got with me my Launch Control XL. Now this is a USB MIDI controller, so perfect for controlling your music software and DAW software, but it's also a very powerful MIDI controller as well. It only has USB output on here, so at the minute I'm using this box here. It's a Kenton MIDI USB host, and what this does is it powers the Launch Control XL, lets me plug in a USB connection, and then I can take a MIDI output from this directly into my circuit. Now the advantage to this is, of course, on circuit we have our 8 macro controls for controlling and shaping the sound. So if I just choose a sound quickly and I can use this to, control and shape the sound with the macros. If I go to my Launch Control XL and choose the right page, now I now have control over my full synth engine as well. So this really opens up the Nova synth engine that we've got in the circuit here, but we've also got other pages as well. So let me just quickly fire up a quick sequence. Okay, on page 1 here, this is set up to be a mixer, and so here I have my faders, so I can actually make changes on the fly. And also, another nice thing is I can add reverb and delay at the same time. So this really again opens up the possibilities of working with circuit. If you think about it, on circuit, on the FX page, I can either go to my reverb or go to my delay. But with the Launch Control XL, I have access to both at the same time and the volume as well. So this really opens up a lot of nice things. So that's the Launch Control XL. That's going through my Kenton MIDI USB host into the circuits. And also I've got another piece here. This is the wonderful lep loop. This is one of my favourite little things, made by Tony Light over in Milan. And what I'm doing in this setup, and what I'll be doing at the show tomorrow night, is I'm taking a MIDI output from here and controlling the lep loop from circuit. Now the lep loop has sequences built in itself, but it will react to any MIDI coming in on MIDI channel 1. And this means I can go to my synth page. Let's just go to a clear session, go to my synth page, I bring the volume down on the mixer here, but go back to my synth keyboard, bring up the volume of my lep loop. I can actually play the lep loop and sequence it directly from circuit. So let's just put a quick mini sequence in here. Just randomly putting some notes in here. So now I have my lep loop integrated into circuit, and let's go to my drum parts. Let's put some drum parts in. Go to maybe put some hi-hats on here as well. Okay, so now I've got my sequence running. We have some white noise hi-hat sound from the lep loop, maybe an extra kick drum. Now let's go back to the synth one here. I'll bring in the volume of the synth as well. Go to my mixer here and stuff. Okay, now let's just bring everything else out here. So I'll go to my mixer page, just bring well. We just keep the nice hi-hats in, I like those. So, okay, so we've got the kick drum, hi-hats, and the snare there. And I'm going to visit a last page I've got on my Launch Control XL here, page number 5, and this is for controlling my drums. So now, here I can control the actual sample that I'm using. So I can start to play different samples, different kick drum samples, while the sequencer is still running without having to go to different pages on the circuit. I can also use the other controls to start to record some parts in. So, and I can actually use the pitch control on a fader here, which is a really nice way to get a slight, a nice accurate kind of way of recording in. And of course, then I can do other things, add reverbs and delays. Change my reverb settings so we can hear them a bit better. Again, I can record this. Okay, let's go back to the mixer page. Bring in the let loop. There we go, just a nice little ending. But the idea is really just to give you a bit of a taste of the way that we can use Circuit really as the hub for a lot of other devices. The Launch Control XL is a superb extra controller for Circuit. You can get hold of the mapping I'm using directly from the novationmusic.com website. You'll find that in the downloads page, and you can easily just populate Launch Control XL using the Launch Control XL editor. That's then going into my host, which is then feeding the circuit and allowing me to take full control over the MIDI aspects, the mixer. And what a really nice thing the Launch Control gives is the ability to control more than one thing at a time, where often on the circuit you have to visit that page. So this really opens up the possibilities with it. And then of course Circuit is taking the MIDI output here from the mini jack to the adapter through to a MIDI input on my LEP loop, and I'm able to control my LEP loop using the circuit as well. If I wanted to add a second MIDI item into here, again, it's not a problem, because on Circuit we can control 2 full MIDI channels, so we can control things on MIDI channel 1 and MIDI channel 2 and actually sequence those. Synth 1 is connected to MIDI channel 2, Synth 2 is connected to MIDI channel 2. I could control a third item as well if I wanted. The drums, all the drum parts send out MIDI on MIDI channel 10. So really I could have 2 synths running and then maybe another drum machine with another or a sampler that just requires a little trigger MIDI signal. So that's a quick look at the setup that I'm going to be using as calc at the Battle of the Circuits event, which will be tomorrow night, which is probably after you'll see this video. But I thought it'd be interesting just to see some of the workflow that we've got going on here. So I hope that's been interesting for you. And if you want to get any information about Circuit or the Launch Control XL, do give Eddie a call here at Loops and Bits. It's a great store. And if you want to, if you're into your synths, come down and check it out, because there's a lot of really nice things here. Thanks very much for watching. Yeah.